Hello everybody, it's time to expose the truth. I've remained silent about this now for 3 years and I need to expose and get off my chest the life-destroying lies and deceit and downright maliciousness that goes on within safeguarding services, midwifery safeguarding services for our children. And I'm going to expose now the woman who has destroyed, the professional who has destroyed an entire family due to her downright blatant lies and maliciousness. So her name is Siobhan O'Neill and she was my safeguarding midwife at Manchester Foundation Trust, St Mary's Hospital, safeguarding lead apparently. Safeguarding midwife, and I was 5 months pregnant in 2023 and my baby, my unborn baby, was at significant risk of harm, as was I. But in terms of the Children's Act 1989, the threshold for child protection, my unborn baby was certainly, undoubtedly at significant risk of harm. And I'll go even further than that. Death threats were being made to our unborn baby because I was being stalked. And I was fearing for my life and my unborn baby's life, as was my husband. We'd even needed to flee the country at one point because we were that petrified because the police weren't doing enough to protect us at that point. They've been wonderful since then, but at that point, they were not doing enough to protect us and our baby. And so we self-referred, me being a children's social worker, as you're all aware, we self-referred our baby into a local authority that we lived in and desperately trying to receive some sort of safeguarding support for our unborn baby that we were desperate for. I was too petrified to go home. I'd been living in a hotel because I was paying £400 a week because I was too petrified to go home, which is where the death threat had been made and the other acts of violence and abuse towards us when I was pregnant. And I was advised by the local authority to immediately inform our safeguarding team, our midwives at the St Mary's Hospital. And we took their advice straight away, my husband and I went straight down to St Mary's Hospital. And I was admitted immediately onto the antenatal ward for safeguarding reasons. Now, as the days went by, my husband kept saying to me, Marie, things are not adding up here. I just can't put my finger on it, but things are not adding up. And I said, oh, no, the midwives are lovely. They're looking after me. They're telling me that we're waiting for the police to arrive and we're, waiting for children's services to answer our referrals. And we are, working on it with the aim of trying to get you into a women's refuge, as an alternative to paying the £400 and odd that I was paying previously in hotels. Out of my own money, by the way. And as the days went on, I was very, very, very stressed. I was being stalked. We were having death threats made to us. People were being sent to our house to scare us. And we were petrified for our baby's safety. And that I was going to miscarry our baby because I was no spring chicken. I was 44, at this point. And she was an IVF baby as well. And we were petrified I was going to miscarry her because I was under incredible stress and my mental health was deteriorating. Of course it was. It would to anybody. And as the days went by, I think it was about day 3, day 4, a midwife came in and she said, would you be willing to have a mental health assessment because we're concerned about how stressed you are and the impact that it will be having on baby. And I said, yeah, okay. Initially, I was like, no, I don't need a mental health assessment. I needed to find me somewhere to live that's safe. And anyway, eventually I agreed. And it was under false pretenses because I had the mental health assessment, and basically there was no diagnosis, but there were some concerns about my mental health in that mental health assessment. And by the way, it wasn't by a doctor or a psychiatrist, it was just by a nurse that can do mental health assessments. And the next day, I think, oh, was it the day after? It was the day that we were that I walked out. The reason why we walked out on day 6 was because Siobhan O'Neill, the safeguarding midwife, who we'd not met up until this point, I had no idea who this lady was. She walked into our room. I was in the bed. My husband was sitting at the side of us. And we knew that after that mental health assessment, the way things were going, that we needed to start recording all conversations. She walked into our room, and the first thing that she said was, right, I'm going to be really honest with you now, because so far, some of the staff on this ward haven't been honest with you, Marie. Some of the staff on this ward think that you're telling lies about being stalked. I went, telling lies? I said, what? I said, my husband sat here. He's saying exactly the same thing. She went, yeah, and they think that your husband's colluding with you. We couldn't believe it. And I just quietly and calmly got out of my bed, my husband with me, and we walked out. We got home and I said to Blum, I'm a social worker. I know exactly what direction this is going in now. I said, we need to really think very carefully about how we are going to be able to keep our baby safe and safeguard her, because they are not going to be working with us for the right reasons anymore. And in the next few days, we submitted a complaint. In fact, we submitted a complaint to PALS whilst I was still on the ward. I think it was on day 6, the morning of day 6, before she said that, because we walked out after that. And a week later, I found out, because I was off work. I'd been sent home from work because of my mental health a couple of days earlier. And because of the impact that the stalking was having on me, and couldn't believe that it took this lady, this midwife, this safeguarding midwife, a whole week after we'd complained about her to PALS to submit a LADO referral. Now, I don't know if you're all aware of what a LADO referral is, but I really, really want to update you and make you knowledgeable about what a LADO referral is. So a LADO referral is the local authority designated officer, and every council has one. If a professional is concerned about another professional's capacity to work with vulnerable people, they can do what's called a LADO referral to the LADO department. Every council will have one, every safeguarding department. And in this case, it was children's. And lo and behold, she does this LADO referral to my employer. And I knew nothing about this. It wasn't until I got a phone call from my manager where he said, Marie, we've had a LADO referral, and everyone's concerned about your mental health, and there's going to be a LADO meeting next week. You're not invited to it. I wasn't invited to any of them. Now, I'm going to read to you the lies of what Siobhan O'Neill wrote about me that has been so damaging to an entire family. And I've talked about this in other videos, of the snowball effect, the ripple effect. When one lie is told by a professional, they might think it's a small lie, but that lie then rolls like a snowball and rolls and rolls and rolls and rolls, and all these false lies come and narratives start to be formed as a result of that initial lie from this professional, which in this case was Siobhan O'Neill. Now I'm going to read to you what she wrote on the LADO referral. Here's a LADO referral. You might all want to take a, hang on a minute, is that the right way around? Yeah, you might all want to take a screenshot of that. Okay. So she's done the LADO referral to my employer. And on the LADO referral, she's written, reason for referral. Miss Spahia, I'm married, so I'm Mrs. by the way, is currently receiving antenatal care from Manchester Foundation Trust. She has presented at 21 weeks gestation, acutely mentally unwell from a mental health perspective. She has presented with what appear to be paranoid thoughts and delusions. It has been identified that Mrs. Spahia has an extensive history of mental health concerns, including voluntary inpatient admissions for psychosis. Midwives are concerned as Miss Spahia stated she was returning to work this week. And that was it. That's the Lado referral. Now, let's go through this Lado referral. First of all, I have never in my life ever been diagnosed with any psychotic illness whatsoever. So let's get that one straight to start off with. I have never ever had any voluntary inpatient admissions for psychosis. Yes, I've had voluntary inpatient admission. I'd had 2 inpatient admissions in 2015 and 16, only for 2 weeks each time, 2 to 3 weeks each time. And that was not for psychosis. That was because I was in a lot of pain and I was feeling very, very mentally unwell because of it. I've never been sectioned under the Mental Health Act. She then also says she has presented with what appear to be paranoid thoughts and delusions. Now, I have the bundle of papers. Oh, I've left them downstairs, but I can happily show them. I've got the full entire bundle of the 6 days admission from when I was on that safeguarding admission on the antenatal ward. Not once in over about 100 pages, not once does any single professional state that they are concerned or use the word delusional. Not once. And that's even including the mental health assessment that I had. What was the other thing she says? And then appears to be paranoid thoughts and delusions. So basically, what she's basically saying there is, with her lies and the spin, she's alluding to and giving my employer the wrong impression that Marie's not being stalked. Oh, no, she's paranoid and psychotic. She's got a history of paranoia and psychosis. Can you see what damage she's done to our family? And then, as a result of that Lado referral, I got suspended. So that is how I got suspended. Because of her lies, basically. And I will tell you something. Her lies have cost the taxpayer almost £120,000 of the taxpayers' money, because I've been suspended on full pay since that Lado referral was made. Now, I'm going to read something else to you. This here, I've not actually taken off, scribbled out my personal details, so I can't show you this. But this entry was written by a midwife on the 1st of November 2023 at 13:49. This was the main midwife, the mental health midwife that used to pop in almost every day to see me, and she was lovely. She was, her surname's McKenna, so I really hope that this midwife sees this and actually hears how proud I am that she actually spoke the truth. She came in, she's recorded, spoken with something, this McKenna lady, who feels there is no mental health crisis and that Marie's concerns seem genuine, that's the concerns about being stalked, and that it is more a safeguarding concern rather than needing mental health input. Spoken with safeguarding midwife Siobhan O'Neill, who advised that I speak with the police and refer to Tameside Children's Services. So it was there in black and white. And she then goes on and tells my employer in the first Lado meeting, a week later or whatever it was, tells everybody that I was apparently scrolling through my phone and not able to show her any evidence, despite me telling them that I had a laptop there with me with all the evidence on, and I was quite happily willing to show them all of my evidence. Now, the police didn't apply for a stalking protection order for me until 2 months after that. And like I said, at the time, all they needed to do was talk to the police. That's all they needed to do. And the police would have told them, the chief inspector that was dealing with us would have told them in black and white, like he did later on down the line to other professionals, we are classifying Marie as a victim of stalking and harassment. And he then goes on, a couple of months later, a month or so later, to state, we are in the process of applying for a stalking protection order for Marie. So the lies that this woman has done, she has destroyed an entire family. I have lost my job because of her downright blatant, disgusting lies. And what I will say to everybody is that we no longer have our baby because of her lies. We are so angry. So, Siobhan O'Neill from Manchester Foundation Trust, St Mary's Hospital, shame on you. You should be stripped of your registration, and unfortunately, I don't even think we've had an outcome from. We did a referral about Siobhan O'Neill to the Nursing and Midwifery Council. I don't think, off the top of my head, that we've actually had an outcome from that yet. Now, to be fair to them, that might be because we had to postpone things because I had other priorities. I had to concentrate on my mental health, and we had other priorities. So to be fair to the NMC, it might be because we asked them to postpone things. But if the NMC are watching this, we are quite happy to carry on with our complaint about Siobhan O'Neill. She should be stripped of her midwifery registration for what she's done to our family.